I accidentally found my father's will, and what was written inside destroyed my faith in family in 1 second. My father decided that I was a woman, and therefore had no right to property. He left everything, the house, the business, the bills, the land, to my brother, an adult slacker who spends his days playing computer games. But the worst thing I learned later. And after that, something in me broke forever. I'm Grace, 34, female, and I swear my hands were still shaking when all this started. The kind of tremor you get when your entire childhood suddenly rearranges itself in your head, and you realize you were never crazy at all. I'd gone to my father's house that afternoon, because he'd had a heart attack 2 days earlier, and someone had to find his insurance info. Someone, of course, meaning me, because my brother Kevin couldn't pause his online raid long enough to pick up a printer, let alone help dig through Dad's filing cabinets. Dad's office still smelled like him. Old leather, stale coffee, and that aftershave he thinks makes him look distinguished. I wish I could say I wasn't snooping, that the envelope labeled Last Will and Testament just fell into my lap, but no. I saw it. I stared at it. I opened it because something in me already knew I wasn't going to like what was inside. And God, I wasn't prepared. Every page, every line felt like being erased while still alive. The house, the rental properties, the investments, the accounts, every single thing Dad had built, saved, hoarded, bragged about. All of it to Kevin. My name appeared once. One insulting paragraph about how daughters don't require inheritance because women are provided for by their husbands. Followed by, I leave Grace my blessing, and well wishes for a suitable marriage. A suitable marriage, like I was livestock being sent off to auction. I sat on the office floor with a will in my lap, and for a second, I swear, I couldn't breathe. I thought maybe I'd faint, or scream, or throw up. Instead, I did something worse. I pictured Dad telling this to someone proudly. I pictured him smiling while explaining that his adult daughter with her own consulting firm didn't need property, because someday a man would choose her. I pictured him saying it the same way he always said things that gutted me, with a shrug, like facts were facts. By the time I drove to the hospital, everything inside me was vibrating. I remember walking into his room and seeing him sitting up watching TV like it was any other Tuesday. I didn't even say hello. I found your will, I said. He didn't look guilty, not even surprised. You weren't supposed to see that yet, he grumbled, like I'd opened a birthday card early. When was I supposed to see it? After you died and left me nothing? He turned the volume down on the TV, but didn't mute it. You don't need anything. You'll get married eventually. I'm 34. I run a business. I'm not... That's exactly why you're not married, he snapped. You're too independent. Men don't like that. It was like being slapped with a belief he'd always had, but never said that bluntly. A belief he thought was so natural he didn't even cushion it. And Kevin? I asked. Why does he get everything? He's the son. Sons carry family legacy. He hasn't worked in 6 years.
Hey guys, real quick before we keep going, don't forget to sub and drop a like if you're enjoying the story. Thank you very much. Enjoy watching.
He's building an online presence, Dad said with the irritation of someone forced to defend obvious brilliance. He needs support. You don't. My voice started cracking. I hated that. Dad, I've offered Kevin jobs, real jobs. Handouts, he said. You trying to play boss over your brother isn't the same as giving him real opportunity. That was when something in me snapped. A tiny thread inside my chest, the one I didn't even know had still been holding on. Because, in that moment, staring at the man who raised me, I realized something terrifyingly clear. He'd never seen me as his equal, not as a kid, not as an adult, and not even now, not even as the only functioning adult in our entire family. And the sickest part? He wasn't done hurting me yet. Because this was only the beginning. The drive back from the hospital didn't feel real. I remember gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles went white, like I needed something solid to hold on to, while the rest of my life tilted sideways. I kept replaying Dad's voice in my head. Too independent, women get provided for, sons carry the legacy. And I swear, the words felt radioactive. Like they burned each time they hit the inside of my skull. By the time I pulled into Dad's driveway, I wasn't angry anymore. Not exactly. Anger requires energy. What I felt was heavier. Like grief mixed with insult. A betrayal so old, it had probably started before I even learned to talk. Kevin's window glowed neon blue from his gaming setup, just like always. I didn't knock, didn't wait. I stomped downstairs, pushed open his door, and called his name over the sound of whatever dungeon boss he was slaughtering. He paused his game and yanked off his headset like I was the inconvenience. What? He snapped. I held up Dad's will. Did you know? He didn't flinch, not one muscle on his face moved. Know what? That everything goes to you. My voice broke on everything. Kevin shrugged. Makes sense. I swear, I stopped breathing. Explain how. I'm the son, he said, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. Dad and I talked about it a while ago. It's traditional. You're 36, Kevin. You haven't worked in 6 years. That's not true. His voice sharpened defensively. I sell high-value collectible cards online. You sold 2 cards last month, for maybe, what, $50? 74, he corrected proudly. And I'm building my channel. You play video games for 14 hours a day. It's a job, Grace, he snapped. If you weren't so bitter, you'd understand online careers. I actually laughed. This horrible, cracked sound. Because it was either that or break something. Dad is giving you the house, the rentals, the investments, everything, I said, my hands shaking again. I get well wishes for a suitable marriage. Kevin leaned back in his chair and said the one sentence that confirmed everything I feared. Well, yeah, women don't need property. Your husband should take care of you. I felt my world tilt so violently, I had to steady myself on the doorframe. I'm not married, I whispered. Then fix that, he said, turning back to his monitor. You're too picky anyway. Something in me boiled. I walked right up to his desk, grabbed the mouse out of his hand, and hurled it across the room. It hit the wall with a sharp crack that left a spiderweb dent. Kevin jerked around, eyes wide, finally paying attention. What the hell is your problem? You, I said. Dad, all of this. You're overreacting, he scoffed. But he didn't pick up the mouse. He didn't resume his game. For the first time in years, he actually looked at me. Not with respect, not with fear, but with this dull irritation of a man who's had his comfort disrupted. I realized then that Kevin expected me to fold, to slink away, to accept that I'd been written out of my own family like a typo. Instead, I walked out. And for the next week, while Dad recovered in the hospital, I tore through every drawer, every cabinet, every file in that house. I wasn't looking for anything specific. I didn't even know what I hoped to find. But what I eventually uncovered, what I held in my hands, changed everything. A stack of documents I hadn't seen in 20 years. My mother's handwriting, her signature, her name on bank accounts, her name on a deed, a will, not Dad's, hers. And suddenly, everything made sense. The quiet way she used to sigh after arguments with Dad, the way she told me once, always make sure you have something of your own, sweetheart. And how careful she was with paperwork Dad never touched. My pulse twisted into something electric, because if these documents were what I thought they were, then Dad hadn't just erased me. He'd stolen from me. And my mother had tried to protect me from him, even after death. And I was about to find out just how far she went. I barely slept that night. I kept the folder of Mom's documents on my kitchen table like it might vanish if I blinked too long. Her handwriting felt like a ghost pressing a hand to my shoulder, gentle, steady, purposeful. And the more I pieced through the pages, the more it felt like she'd seen this whole disaster coming 20 years before any of us did. By morning, I knew I needed backup, real backup, so I called Giselle. Giselle, 38, sharp as a blade, my closest friend since college and now a partner at a downtown law firm. I didn't even get halfway through the story before her tone dropped into that calm, lawyer dealing with a crime state voice. Grace, bring the documents, now. Her office smelled like eucalyptus and printer toner. She took the file, read every page slowly, and the longer she read, the angrier she looked. Not emotional anger, but the cold, lethal kind lawyers get when they see injustice done, sloppily. Finally, she pushed her glasses up and said, Your mother was a genius. I stared at her. What exactly am I looking at? A will, Giselle said, tapping the envelope. A valid one. And not just that. She established separate property protections before marrying your father. Ironclad ones. Anything she purchased or inherited under her name alone stays hers. And she designated you as her beneficiary. I felt heat rise behind my eyes. So, the beach house, the savings accounts, the jewelry? All yours, she said. And they've been yours since the day she died. I swallowed. But Dad had no legal right to touch any of it. She said it without softening the blow. Not a cent. The room blurred for a second. I sat down hard. Grace, Giselle said gently. Your mother knew exactly what your father believed. She planned around him. And he hid this, I whispered. Not just hid. Giselle lifted another sheet. He's been signing property management paperwork for the beach house. Something cold slid down my spine. But why would he? She turned the page around so I could see the deposits. Grace, she said softly. Your father's been renting out your beach house for 4 years. She let the next number land. $72,000, all deposited into his personal checking account. My mouth went dry. He stole from me. Giselle didn't blink. Yes. It wasn't a metaphor anymore. It wasn't a feeling. It wasn't emotional. It was literal theft. And suddenly, every memory of him commenting on my clothes, my job, my single status, my worth, rearranged themselves in my head, lining up like dominoes pointing toward this exact truth. Dad didn't just devalue me in theory, he profited off it. I went numb. I stared at the papers so long, the numbers started swimming. Giselle placed a hand on mine, grounding me. We're not letting this slide, she said. But first, we need to access the contents officially. The bank still has your mom's safety deposit box on record. We'll need her death certificate and your ID, but they'll let you in. Dad has the original certificate, I said. Then we get it, she replied, simply. That night, I drove back to Dad's house again, but this time, I didn't feel scared or sad or furious. I felt mechanical, focused. The way a knife must feel right before it hits the whetstone. Kevin was yelling into his headset as usual. I didn't stop. I went straight into Dad's office, unlocked the filing cabinet again, and found Mom's death certificate tucked in a folder labeled Francesca, final. Seeing her name there hit me in the chest. Final, but not forgotten. She'd made sure of that. Friday afternoon, I walked into the bank with Giselle at my side. The manager recognized Mom's name instantly. She'd worked there for 30 years. His voice softened when he spoke about her. He guided us to the vault. The metal drawer slid out with a groan. My heart pounded so hard my vision vibrated. Inside the box was a stack of envelopes tied with a pale blue ribbon. On top was a sealed letter addressed to me. My name in her handwriting. Something inside me cracked wide open. Because I hadn't just lost a mother. I'd gained a warning, a plan, a weapon, and I hadn't even opened it yet. The letter felt heavier than the entire metal box. Heavier than the 4 years of stolen rent. Heavier than Dad's words about husbands providing and daughters obeying. I held it with both hands, afraid the paper might tear under my grip. I didn't open it right away. I just stared at my name, written in Mom's slow, patient print, Grace. Like she'd known I would need this letter someday. Like she'd known exactly what Dad would do. And maybe she had. "Take your time," Giselle whispered. I nodded. But time was the one thing my heart wasn't offering. I broke the seal. My mother's voice came alive in ink. "My sweet girl. If you're reading this, it means what I feared came to pass." My throat tightened. "I love your father. I truly do. But love does not erase the truth of a person. He believes sons carry worth, and daughters carry dependence. I could not change that in the years we were married, but I could protect you from it." I had to stop reading because the room tilted, and I felt my chest close up like something was sitting on it. Giselle stayed silent, letting me breathe. I kept going. "Your father will give everything to Kevin. I've heard him mutter it under his breath for years, though he doesn't realize I hear more than he thinks. Kevin will never stand on his own if your father keeps enabling him. And you, my strong girl, will always be told, you don't need what you've earned. So I left you what I could, what was mine alone, the beach house, the jewelry, the savings. All of it spelled out in her will, tucked beneath the letter. I had to press my hand over my mouth to keep from sobbing aloud in that tiny bank vault. The grief felt old and new at the same time, like I was losing her for the first time all over again, but this time with the clarity of an adult who finally understood the war she'd been fighting behind closed doors. Mom ended her letter with one last punch. "Your father will tell you that a woman does not need property. He will tell you that your value lies in marriage. You must never believe him, not even for a second. I saw your future, long before he tried to limit it. I know exactly the woman you are becoming. Take what is yours. Do not let anyone, not even your father, convince you that you deserve less." I folded the letter against my chest like a shield. That was the moment something shifted inside me. Not anger, not yet. Resolve. Mom hadn't just left me money, she left me the blueprint to destroy the lie my father had built his entire worldview upon. We left the bank with the documents secured in a leather envelope. I clutched it all the way to my car like it was oxygen, like losing it would unravel whatever spine I'd just grown. But that's when the trouble started. Because when I got home, hand still on my keys, eyes still swollen from crying, Kevin was sitting on my doorstep. Legs crossed, hoodie pulled up, a half-empty Red Bull beside him. He looked wrong, agitated, like someone had plugged him into a socket and left him buzzing. "What are you doing here?" I whispered. He stood too fast, knocking over the can. "Dad called me," he said, voice sharp and accusing. "Said you've been going through his stuff. Said you're trying to stir up shit." Of course Dad had called him. Of course he had. "He also said," Kevin continued, stepping closer, "that you've been talking to a lawyer. About Mom's property." He used air quotes like the words offended him. I felt the hair rise on the back of my neck. He wasn't here to talk. "What exactly did he tell you?" I asked quietly. "He said you're trying to steal from the family," Kevin said. "Trying to take what's supposed to be mine." I stared at him. "It was never yours." He laughed, loud, unhinged, manic. "That's what I thought," he hissed. "So tell me, Grace, what did you find at the bank?" He stepped forward again. I stepped back. His eyes flicked to the envelope in my hand, and something inside him snapped. I saw it happen. This animalistic fury, twisting his face, like property, equaled masculinity, and losing it meant losing himself. He lunged. Actually, lunged for the envelope. I jerked it away, my back hitting the wall. "Kevin, stop! Give it to me!" he screamed, grabbing for my wrist. I twisted out of his grip, adrenaline kicking in hard. My keys fell. The envelope nearly slipped. He reached for it again, and I shoved him back. Not hard, just enough to make him stumble. But he slipped on the spilled Red Bull. Hit the pavement. Hard. The crack of impact echoed through the courtyard. He sat there, stunned for half a second. And then he exploded. "You psycho bitch!" he shrieked, slamming his fist into the concrete so hard his knuckles split. "I'm telling Dad you assaulted me." Blood dripped on the sidewalk. My neighbor across the hall cracked her door open, startled. Kevin saw her and immediately weaponized her presence. "She attacked me," he yelled toward the woman. "She stole our mom's will." My neighbor's eyes went wide. I froze. Because Kevin wasn't stupid. He was dangerous. And this was the exact moment I realized something I should have known sooner. This wasn't sibling rivalry. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was war. And Mom had been right. I needed to be ready. Kevin didn't calm down, not even after the neighbor retreated inside and slammed her door. If anything, her startled expression seemed to fuel him. Attention was gasoline to whatever fire he'd lit inside himself. He pushed himself up off the pavement, blood streaking his knuckles, hoodie smeared with dirt. His eyes were wild, glassy, too bright, like someone who'd been awake for 48 hours gaming and chugging caffeine instead of sleeping or touching sunlight. "You're gonna regret this," he spat, pointing at me with a shaking, bleeding finger. "Dad's gonna destroy you. He's gonna take everything. You think you can steal the house, the rentals, the investments?" I didn't move, didn't speak, just tightened my grip on the envelope with Mom's documents until my wrist hurt. "You don't deserve any of it," he continued, voice cracking. "You're a daughter. You're supposed to get married. That's your job." My stomach twisted. "Kevin, stop." "No," he yelled, stepping too close again. "You think you're better because you have some stupid job, some stupid company? Dad told me. You only work because you're trying to act like a man." I felt the words hit me like physical slaps. "And now you're trying to ruin things," he raged. "Mess up everything Dad planned, all because you're jealous. Pathetic." He wiped his bloody hand on his jeans, leaving a dark smear. Then he leaned in like he wanted to intimidate me with sheer proximity, but I didn't back up this time. "Kevin," I said quietly, "Mom left those assets to me. They were never Dad's, and they were never yours." He froze, his face contorted into something ugly, something almost feral. "That's a lie. It's documented." I held up the envelope. "And you're not getting anywhere near it," Kevin shrieked. Actually shrieked. Yarish and swung his arm toward me, like he intended to knock the envelope out of my hand. That's when the front door upstairs opened. "Hey!" a voice boomed. My neighbor's husband, big guy, construction worker, always polite to me, stood at the top of the steps with a wrench in his hand. "Get away from her, now!" Kevin jumped like someone had hit him with a taser. His eyes darted between us, me, holding the envelope, the man holding the wrench, the blood on his hands, the evidence of his meltdown all over the concrete. And then, like a coward, he bolted. It wasn't graceful. It wasn't dignified. He tripped twice, screamed something unintelligible, slammed himself into his car door, and peeled out of the parking lot so fast he nearly hit the mailbox. My neighbor's husband came down the steps slowly, eyes still sharp, wrench still in hand. "You okay?" he asked. I nodded, even though that wasn't true. "Thanks, really." He glanced at the blood on the sidewalk, the dented mouse Kevin had thrown earlier when he first grabbed for the envelope, and then my shaking hands. "If he comes back, call me, or call the police." Then he went back inside. I stood there for a long moment, catching my breath, before finally getting myself inside and locking the door behind me. I collapsed against it, sliding to the floor. My hands were trembling again, not from fear this time, but from realization. Kevin didn't accidentally snap. He hadn't lost control. He was fully capable of escalating to violence if he felt threatened. And what I had in my possession, her will, the deed, the bank ledgers, threatened everything he thought he was entitled to. He would tell Dad. Dad would explode. Dad would summon every shred of rage, manipulation, and old-world tradition to crush me with guilt and authority. And worst of all, I knew, with a bone-deep certainty, that Dad would believe Kevin's version. He always had. Always would. I sat on the floor for maybe 15 minutes before I called Giselle. She answered on the second ring. "Grace, everything okay?" "No," I whispered. Kevin showed up at my apartment. He tried to take the documents. He got physical. Silence. Then her voice sharpened. "We move now." "What?" "This is no longer a family dispute," she said. "This is harassment and attempted interference with legal property. I'm calling Joseph. We're filing everything today. The claim, the petition, the declaration. All of it." "But I haven't talked to Dad yet." "And you won't," she snapped. "Not alone. Not without me. Not after this." I wiped my face with the sleeve of my sweater. "There's one more thing." "What?" He screamed at the neighbors that I stole Mom's will. A slow hiss came through the phone. "He's laying groundwork, trying to flip the narrative. Classic abuser move." "No one will believe him," I said, weakly. "Grace," she said gently but firmly, "they don't have to. Your father will, and he'll weaponize it." I closed my eyes. "Pack a bag," she said. "Come stay with me tonight. You're not safe there until we file." And God, hearing those words, "You're not safe," did something dark and final inside me. This wasn't emotional anymore. It wasn't philosophical. It wasn't some theoretical battle over sexism or tradition. It was survival. And if Dad and Kevin wanted war, then fine. Mom had left me the ammunition. And I was going to use it. I stayed at Giselle's place that night. Her guest room wasn't much, a small bed, a lamp, a stack of law journals. But it felt safer than my apartment, which suddenly seemed way too easy for Kevin to find his way back to. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, replaying everything. Dad's voice in the hospital, dismissing me. Kevin screaming in my courtyard, the crack of his knuckles hitting concrete, the blood. It didn't feel like one bad day. It felt like the climax of a decades-long pattern I'd been too conditioned to see. By morning, Giselle had coffee ready, and Joseph, her partner in the firm, already in the living room with a stack of documents. He wasn't smiling. That made it worse. "We'll file everything today," he said without preamble. The claim for the stolen rental income. The petition to formally recognize your ownership of the beach house, savings, and jewelry. The declaration detailing Kevin's attempted interference. It felt surreal, hearing my life reduced to neat legal terms. Interference, conversion of assets. Unauthorized possession, harassment. Joseph slid forms toward me. Your signature here and here. My hand trembled, but I signed anyway. Mom's letter was tucked inside my bag like a heartbeat. By noon, the filings were submitted. And by 3 p.m., the retaliation began. My phone blew up with calls from Dad's number. 20, then 30, then 40 missed calls. He switched to text when calling didn't work. Get to the hospital. Now, Kevin told me what you did. You have no right to touch your mother's documents. Where did you take the will? Answer me, Grace. This is a family matter, not a legal one. Then the tone shifted. You are breaking this family. Kevin is a wreck because of you. You could kill me with this stress. And finally, you are no longer welcome in my home until you apologize. I stared at that one the longest. Apologize. For what? For existing. For not being a son? Giselle read the text over my shoulder. He's spiraling. No, I said quietly. He's losing control. That's different. At 5 p.m., Kevin joined the circus. He posted on Facebook, publicly, a long, rambling rant claiming I had stolen Mom's documents, attacked him physically, and brainwashed myself with feminism. He tagged extended family members, childhood neighbors, even the pastor from our old church. He attached a photo of his bloody knuckles. What he didn't mention was that he'd slammed his own fist into the pavement in a meltdown. The comments were already filling up. Grace would never do that. Kevin, you okay? You sound off. Maybe get some sleep, buddy. Where's your proof? I hadn't expected support. I didn't know what to do with it, but the storm kept building. At 9 p.m., someone knocked at Giselle's door. Hard, Giselle looked at me. Stay behind me. She opened the door only a crack. On the porch stood Dad, still in his hospital wristband, still pale and shaky from his heart episode, still furious. How did he even get here? Giselle muttered. Dad shoved the door wider with one hand, ignoring her resistance. Where is she? Giselle stepped between us. You need to leave. Now. Dad's eyes went past her and locked onto me like lasers. Grace, you come home with me right now. I froze. Something primal locked my legs. No, Giselle said firmly. She is not going anywhere with you. Dad ignored her. You think dragging strangers into this will fix anything? You think lawyers make you right? He thumped his fist against his chest. I am your father. Then act like one, I said quietly. His head snapped toward me, like he'd been slapped, and then he lunged, actually lunged, for me. Giselle shoved him back, hard. He stumbled into the doorframe, knocking over a potted plant, dirt exploding across the porch. The crash rang through the neighborhood. Back, up, Giselle said, voice deadly calm, or I call the police. You stole from me, Dad roared. It was Mom's, I yelled, stepping forward. Despite Giselle's warning hand, Mom left it to me. She was a woman, he screamed, spittle flying. Her property is my property, and if she gave you something, it becomes mine to give to Kevin. I felt something cold and final settle inside my ribcage. There it was. His truth, bare, ugly, unfiltered. Dad tried to push past Giselle again, but she planted her feet and forced him back with more strength than anyone her size should have. You hurt my client, she warned, and I will bury you in court before you take another breath. Sirens wailed in the distance. Someone must have called 911 after the yelling. Dad stepped back, panting, eyes wild. This isn't over. No, I said, voice steady. It's just beginning. He pointed at me with a shaking finger. You'll be sorry for this. When I'm dead, you'll regret what you did today. Then he turned and staggered back to his car, slamming the door so hard the window rattled. The sirens grew closer. A neighbor poked their head outside. Giselle locked the door and turned to me, breathing hard. Grace, you need to understand something. What? This man, she said slowly, will not stop, not until someone forces him to. I exhaled shakily. Then we force him. And right there, in that moment, the line finally, completely, irrevocably, snapped between us. Dad wasn't my father anymore. Kevin wasn't my brother anymore. They were opponents, and my mother had left me every tool I needed to win. And I was about to use all of them. The police arrived minutes after Dad peeled out of Giselle's driveway. 2 officers, one older, one barely older, then a college intern, knocked with the kind of weary caution people use when they think they're dealing with a domestic dispute but hope it's just noise complaints. Giselle answered the door while I hovered behind her, arms crossed tight over my chest. Evening, the older officer said. We got a call about yelling. Potential assault, property damage. Giselle stepped aside, letting them see the overturned plant, the shattered ceramic, the dirt smeared across the porch. No assault, she said. But her father forced his way onto my property and attempted to get physical. He left before you arrived. My client is staying with me for safety. She has active legal filings against him. Both officers looked at me. My hands were still shaking. I hated that they could see it. Do you want to file a report? The younger officer asked. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out at first. My throat felt bruised from holding back too many things at once. Finally, yes. Giselle nodded, proud. Inside, while I gave my statement, the older officer jotted everything down without interrupting. Kevin screaming at my apartment. Dad showing up at Giselle's door. The lunge, the threats, the texts. The years of tradition. that were just abuse in nicer clothing. When I finished, he tore the sheet off his pad and handed me a carbon copy. If he shows up again, he said, call immediately. Don't open the door. Don't try to reason with him. Let us handle it. I nodded, but inside, something in me whispered loudly, you're done being the reasonable one. After the officers left, the house went quiet. Eerily quiet. Giselle brewed chamomile tea, but neither of us touched it. She paced. I sat curled on the couch, Mom's envelope tucked beside me like a nervous child clutching a blanket. This case is bigger than property, Giselle finally said. It's about precedent. About your father believing he owns not just the assets, but you. A hot, sick twist rolled through my stomach. He'll smear me to everyone. He already is. Let him, she said. Every unhinged message, every outburst, every public rant helps our case. I scoffed bitterly. Feels great being defended by my abuser's incompetence? She cracked a humorless smile. Welcome to litigation. But the humor vanished when her phone buzzed. She picked it up, and her face changed. What? I asked. She turned the screen toward me. It was Dad's Facebook profile. A picture of him in his hospital gown, pale, hooked up to machines, with the caption, My daughter is trying to steal my estate. If I die from the stress, know it was Grace who killed me. Thousands of shares, hundreds of comments. A mix of confused, horrified, and deeply misinformed strangers arguing about me. A person they'd never met. While my father weaponized his frailty like a loaded gun. And right at the bottom of the post, in all caps, Kevin, take care of everything until I'm gone. Giselle inhaled sharply. He just tried to assign your brother informal control. That's a play. A stupid one, but a play. My pulse pounded in my ears. What does that mean legally? Nothing, she said. Unless he tries to claim medical incompetence and appoint Kevin as temporary executor. The thought made bile rise in my throat. Kevin, the man who screamed on my doorstep, who lived in a fantasy world where gaming was a career, who believed my entire worth was marital potential. Having access to Dad's accounts, his files, his safe, his house? Oh God, I whispered, sitting up. Giselle, the office. My mother's documents were in that house. What if he... Giselle grabbed her keys instantly. We're going. Now. We drove to Dad's place so fast I swear we hit warp speed. I kept expecting to see Kevin's car in the driveway, but it wasn't there. For a moment, hope bloomed in my chest. But the second I opened the front door, the hope died. The house looked ransacked. Drawers pulled out. Papers on the floor. The safe in Dad's office, the one Dad always kept locked, was standing wide open, door pried back, with what looked like a tire iron. Jesus Christ, Giselle muttered, but what froze me in place was the wall. Specifically, the framed picture of our family, Dad, Mom, me, and Kevin, shattered on the carpet. The photo ripped straight down the middle. The tear went right through my face. Not Kevin's, not Mom's, mine. My ears rang. He was here, I said, voice hollow. Kevin was here. Giselle crouched beside the safe. Grace? What? She pulled out the contents, or rather what was left. The folders inside had been rummaged through, violently, some empty, some bent, some missing pages entirely. And on the safe's metal floor lay a single crumpled sheet, a photocopy of Mom's will, torn into pieces. That bastard, I whispered. Giselle stood, her face drained of color, but full of steel. He thinks if he destroys the documents, he destroys your claim. But the originals are at the bank, I said. Yes. And he doesn't know that, she exhaled. Which means he's not just panicking, he's strategizing. I felt dizzy. How did he even break the safe? Giselle pointed to the dented metal. Your father probably gave him the combination years ago, or Kevin watched him open it. Abusive families love secrets, but they're terrible at actual security. She turned to me fully. Grace, this is no longer a negotiation. What do you mean? This is the moment, she said quietly, where you stop responding and start acting, where you stop defending yourself and go on offense. My breath caught. Because that was my hook, my hinge, my pivot. The moment I understood that defending my mother's legacy wasn't enough, now I had to make them choke on the consequences of underestimating me. My revenge wouldn't be loud. It wouldn't be physical. It wouldn't even be dramatic. It would be legal, precise, unforgiving. And when it landed, it would cut cleaner and deeper than anything they saw coming. Giselle met my eyes. You ready? I nodded. Good, she said. Because it's time Kevin learns what a real job looks like. And that was the moment the revenge truly started. The morning after we found Dad's office torn apart, I woke at Giselle's place feeling hollow and wired at the same time. Like someone had scooped out everything soft inside me and replaced it with adrenaline. I expected to feel defeated, but instead, I felt sharp, focused, because ripping up photocopies of my mother's will didn't erase the originals. Breaking a picture frame didn't erase who I was, and destroying a safe didn't destroy the evidence. It just proved how desperate they were. Giselle had coffee waiting, along with a folder so thick it looked like a textbook. This, she said, tapping it, is everything we need for the next move. What is the next move? We file for a restraining order against Kevin, she said. Then we formally demand an accounting of every cent your father has in his estate. Every account, every asset, every transfer, every debt. Why? Because your father just tried to hide evidence, she said. And Kevin broke into a house he doesn't own. So now, we force transparency. I nodded slowly. And then? She smiled, not kindly, professionally, predatorily. Then we squeeze. We spent most of the day drafting filings. Joseph joined us around noon with more documents, copies of bank statements, showing Kevin's credit card payments, transfers from Dad's accounts, and records from the property management company. This, Joseph said, laying out the pages like a deck of cards, is enough to bury both of them in audits and court fees for a year. A tiny, vicious part of me felt warm at that. But the real burn came that evening. Kevin showed up at my office, not my apartment, not Dad's house, my business, the place I built. June texted me, "He's here. I locked the doors. Don't come alone." Giselle grabbed her keys instantly. "Let's go." When we arrived, Kevin was outside shaking the locked glass door with both hands, rattling it so hard the metal frame whined. His face was blotchy, eyes puffy, hair unwashed, wearing the same hoodie he'd screamed in at my apartment. I could hear him yelling, even from across the parking lot. "You ruined everything. Dad is losing it because of you. The family thinks you're crazy. The church thinks you're evil. Get out here." June stood inside the lobby, arms crossed, phone in hand, expression flat as stone. Giselle clicked her car fob, and the chirp made Kevin turn. When he saw us, he started toward the car in a wild stumble. "You!" he shrieked, pointing at me. "You just had to take everything. You just had to destroy the family because you can't stand Kevin getting anything." Giselle stepped forward, voice cold as stainless steel. "Kevin Rollins, back away from my client." He laughed, a high cracked noise. "Who do you think you are? You think you can protect her forever?" And then, in full view of my staff inside, he slammed both fists onto the hood of Giselle's car. The metal dented inward with a hollow thunk. He hit it again, and again, spit flying, tears streaking down his face. "You owe me!" he screamed. "Dad said you'd fix everything." I felt my throat close, not in fear, in clarity. Kevin wasn't fighting for justice. He wasn't even fighting for Dad. He was fighting for the fantasy that his entire life didn't depend on someone else cleaning up after him. "Kevin," I said, stepping forward despite Giselle's warning hand. "Listen to me." He froze, chest heaving. "You need help," I said. "Real help, not money, not inheritance, not Dad's excuses. You need therapy, a job, and responsibility." "I don't need anything from you," he screeched. "Then why are you here?" I asked softly. The question sliced him open. Silence fell. For 2 whole seconds, he just stared. Then something in him snapped. He grabbed a landscaping stone from the ground and hurled it at the office window. June ducked. The rock hit and bounced. The glass held, but the impact left a white spiderweb crack across the pane. That was enough. Giselle's voice cut through the air like a whip. "Police are on their way, Kevin." His head whipped toward her, panicked. "You wouldn't." "Oh, I absolutely would," she said, holding up her phone. "And I already did." Kevin paled. Sirens echoed distantly. He backed away slowly, shaking his head, muttering, "Dad will fix this. Dad will fix everything." Like an incantation? Then he ran. Actually ran. Through the parking lot, stumbling like a panicked child. The police caught him before he reached the street. That night, the restraining order was granted. Kevin was legally barred from contacting me, approaching my home or office, or stepping onto any property connected to me or my business. Dad called once, from a hospital line, and left a single voicemail. "You didn't have to ruin your brother's life." I didn't respond, because I was finally done participating in their delusion. 2 months later, the court case ended exactly how Giselle predicted. Dad was ordered to repay $81,000 with interest. My mother's assets were legally and irrevocably assigned to me. Kevin's actions resulted in a permanent restraining order and mandatory counseling. Dad tried one last time to compromise. A letter delivered by Tristan. "I will change the will to 60-40, but only if you apologize for humiliating me." I burned the letter in Mom's fireplace at the beach house. The flames curled around the edges, turning his demand to ash. The renovation took 3 months. I sanded floors until my arms ached, painted walls until I couldn't feel my fingers, fixed cabinets, repaired tile, replaced fixtures. Every nail, every brushstroke, every bead of sweat felt like stitching myself back together. And when it was done, when the ocean breeze drifted through clean windows and Mom's picture sat framed on the mantel, I knew what I wanted to do, honor her. So I founded the Francesca Rollins Women's Opportunity Trust. Its mission was simple: help women whose families tried to erase their worth. Legal funds, business grants, emergency housing, educational support. Mom helped me escape a future where I'd be owned. I wanted to help others escape too. A month after the trust launched, Kevin called from an unknown number. I shouldn't have answered, but I did. His voice was small, humiliated. "I need money," he said. "No," I replied, "but I can offer you a job." "Forget it," he snapped and hung up. And that was the last time I ever heard his voice. Sometimes I sit on the balcony of the beach house at sunset with Mom's letter in my lap. She knew all along. She fought for me quietly. Now I fight loudly, and I won. Not because I destroyed them, but because I refused to let them destroy me. And every wave that hits the shore sounds like her voice whispering, "You were always worth more than they ever let you believe."